So good morning, everybody. My name is Yuri Paget. I am the CEO of Prianto, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining the webinar this morning, which is jointly held with Droplet Computing, an amazing and compelling technology which you'll hear all about today. With me in the office today is the CEO of Droplet Computing, Peter van Udden, and also presenting today will be the CEO of Droplet Computing, Barry Daniels, and we have Michelle Leverick, who is their chief technologist. Today, this presentation is all about containers, and you'll hear about Droplet Computing's container technology, which I think is, very compelling and certainly very now at the moment with the current climate of lockdown and applications needing to be run in different places and on different platforms. If you want to submit any questions, please submit them into the chat box on Zoom, and at the end of the presentation, we will answer them. And you never know, we might be able to do an interactive session. So let's have a quick look at the agenda. I'm going to do a brief introduction about Prianto, very brief, because you want to hear all about Droplet Computing. Droplet Computing will then tell you a bit about running apps on any device, how many awards their technology has won, and generally delivering applications cross platform in containers. There's a couple of customer case studies at the end, and before that, Michelle will do a demonstration of the technology. There's nothing like seeing, to be honest. This is really, really an amazing technology. Next slide, please. A bit about Prianto. I'll keep it brief. There's only a couple of slides. We were founded in 2009, so we're just over 10 years old, and we've grown from 0 to 130 employees. We are headquartered in Munich, in Germany. Prianto Limited was founded by myself in 2121, it says here. I think it was 2011. Two that snuck in, sorry about that. And that's the UK business, and Prianto has now expanded into 12 countries across Europe and North America, with our latest office opening in Toronto just before the end of last year. Why are we different? I believe Prianto is different because we have disruptive and innovative vendors. Our technologies are compelling and door opening, and your customers are certainly willing to listen to something that's different than the standard tier 1 products that are out there that everybody knows and sells. And the reason this is good for you is because it means more margin for resellers. And at the end of the presentation, there's one more slide which will just show you how profitable Droplet Computing can be for your business. This is my last slide. I would urge you to look at this. In 2020, the container market, this is a really great slide, the container market is going to be worth 2.68 billion. And that is an amazing amount of revenue. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to, one last slide. These are the compelling technologies that we actually have. I'll give you 10 seconds to have a quick look. And if there's anything there that you want to find out more about, please contact us via chat, or perhaps contact our sales team after the presentation. Right, so now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Barry Daniels, who'll tell you all about this wonderful container technology called Droplet Computing.
Thanks, Yuri. I hope everyone's okay today and safe through this interesting period we find ourselves. What is Droplet Computing and why was it established? Where did we come from? So Peter, who's actually in the office today, was actually working at one of the tier 1 sort of vendors delivering remote desktops, and was there for an opportunity in which the CTO wanted to deliver out remote desktops across the organizations and globally. And he had a main challenge, or a main problem, that on the day of the kickoff meeting, they actually come to deliver the technology, and where they were, they had no connectivity. They had no phone signal, and therefore the CTO actually cancelled the project on on kickoff day because he realized without connectivity, he couldn't get access to his applications, and that could render his business in a poor position to deliver what his workers would need. So Droplet was born, and our whole remit is to actually enable Windows applications to run on any platform. That's what we've been our mission to do, and ensuring that we have application capability and compatibility across platform, with some in ways legacy and in some ways modern applications. It was just about delivering the apps to where they needed on what device, and enable some remote and offline working, which has come into its own through this COVID-19 situation, where you see a lot of people now have had to go and work from home, and we can scale very quickly. When you say a container technology, the instant visions that people have in their head are Docker and Kubernetes, and whereas Docker and Kubernetes are server-side based technologies that are there built for scale and cross architecture to be able to deliver applications in that cloud world that scale, that can shrink with Kubernetes as a string puller underneath. We're not that. We started very much on the client side container with Droplet Computing. So we isolate away the application, put it into our technology, and then deliver it back with the core binaries to whichever platform you wish it to be delivered to. We don't need any server-side infrastructure, so the ROI case studies come back very compelling in terms of the overall cost of deploying a droplet solution against traditional methods that are out there like Citrix, like VMware. One big piece for us, as I described at the beginning, is to be able to be offline by design, to be able to deliver those applications regardless of connectivity. And a massive part of what we do in the legacy part specifically, we wanted a security solution that was secure by design and enabled Droplet to be used as a sure way to protect what is inherently insecure operating systems and applications. Along our journey, we've been very fortunate to be recognized by our peers. So we don't tend to enter the paid for or bought for technology awards. We tend to go for the independent ones, and the British Computer Society being the largest one in this country of those. We've been fortunate enough to be recognized twice. First year for the Innovation and Entrepreneur Award, and then in the second year and the current year, we are the emerging technology in the UK, the emerging technology of the year. We're up against some of the platinum sponsors of the event in our category, like BT and Intel, and still won the award. So it's some nice recognition for where the technology disrupts. I mentioned on this earlier, and legacy is a big part of what we do with the security. We're able to deliver cross-platform and secure those applications that typically are tied to older versions and older operating systems. So we see this a lot within the enterprise space, within the public sector space, where an application has been bespokely written for that business. Their business is tied to that application because it's been the core part of how they deliver their profits, how they deliver their operations, and to be able to retrain global staff in many cases with some of our customers, to retrain them into a new way of working or into a new part of an application. One is costly, which obviously in the current COVID-19 situation, budgets are going to be constrained. And even if there were projects to upgrade, significant costs can be saved by running what is and as is. And when you look at the world of AI and BI as it is today, those platforms are about data and manipulating data and giving you insights. And those legacy applications, you can still mine the data out. There's a use case that we have with a company called dunnhumby that actually sucks out the data out of legacy applications. They then import that back and deliver that solutions to the likes of Tesco's, for example, giving them insight into their data, even though their application that they're using is an old 16-bit application. They're still able to take advantage of the modern way of life. So the actual application that's used in that enterprise sort of case study or use case can be relevant to today's world, because you can still take advantage on modern platforms in a different way, but still then secure your legacy business as usual. And no CEO, no board member is going to sign off on a significant 6 or 7 figure project to upgrade an application when there's no real tangible benefits to do that. It's not just about legacy for droplet computing though, because we do have a platform that Michelle will demonstrate a little later on in the presentation when she gets into her demo, and demonstrate how we can also run modern applications. We have use cases that we will talk about later where customers have containerized their whole delivery platform and put all of their applications inside a droplet container, enabling them then to mass deploy that solution in a very easy, cost-effective manner, saving them, in the case that we'll show you later, significant money. We also want to deliver those applications, as I was saying, cross-platform. So we can deliver to non-native Windows platforms like the Mac OS, Linux, Chrome OS. It can be delivered also further on to the cloud infrastructures as well. And this is the basic construct of what Droplet is about. So across the center here, we have what we call our DCA, so our Droplet Computing Application. And we have a version for each of the different platforms that we support. So it'll be a DMG in the case of the Mac OS, it will be an RPM or a .deb file in the Linux edition, an MSI, an .exe or an MSIX in the Windows edition. And on Chrome, similarly, we have a method for delivering out. And then attached to that core structure, we then bolt on our container technology itself, that then is portable and movable across those different platforms. And there's 2 types of container that we have. There's a DCIX container, which is for the legacy application. So these are for the runtimes of old DOS programs like the 16-bit app I was talking about earlier, or XP, as we've seen. There's been some high-profile breaches in the last few years on machines that are still running XP out there, and manufacturing is quite prevalent. Also within retail, these can be the case. So for those old ones, you would use the DCIX, and that has no reliance on any underlying technologies. It will just be able to be delivered across those different platforms, including cloud technologies like Azure and Amazon, Google, Alibaba, whatever the platform is, we can deliver to those different technologies, and we're complementary to what we have there. The DCIM is our modern container. So this would have a reliance on hardware acceleration. And we have a dependency either from KVM in the world of Linux and Chrome, or Intel Haxum for Windows and Mac operating system. So we write instructions direct to the chip through those technologies, enabling us to gain performance of multi-core and using lots of memory that these modern applications need to be able to run in a performant manner. And so we have that side here. And as I say, once you create your container of DCIX or DCIM, you can create your master image. You can then deploy that 1 time, 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. It's perfectly scalable because we deliver to the endpoint with all the security features, with all of the policy engine, all capsulated inside that container. So we comply to the governance structures of our enterprise and public sector customers. It's not just about the physical endpoints, as I said. We can also deliver over different technologies, whether it be Amazon workspaces, whether it be Citrix, whether it be VMware, or whether it be Microsoft. Within Citrix use case, a big one that we see commonly is an old farm, say 4.5 presentation server, for example, and the applications will no longer run in the latest version of Citrix. So what we can then do is engage with Droplet and deliver those applications onto the modern Citrix farm, allowing them to proceed in the same manner as they are today. And that could be a sensible use case for many options. They want to keep the data near to where the virtual desktops are being delivered, for example, if it's a global type of organization. But our technology perfectly complements those other technology stacks that are out there, like Windows Virtual Desktop or the Horizon platform with VMware. VDI, digital workspace solutions, you know, as I've just explained, really, it is all around cost savings in some cases. You could replace our solution and actually take away some of these costs, or we can complement them. We work in both in harmony completely with all of those different technologies. The flexibility is completely in the product to be able to meet most use cases that you will find in the workplace. I'm now going to hand over to Michelle, and we're going to actually show you what Droplet looks like.
Hi there, thank you. Can everybody see my screen okay? I'll take that to be a yes. Just to let you see what I've got open, I've got two Droplet environments. The first is a Windows 10 environment where I'm using the Droplet container to deliver a legacy application. In this case, I've picked Microsoft Office 2003. And then also on the Apple Mac, I've got a copy of Droplet running a modern application. So hopefully this illustrates that we work across different platforms and the interface is uniform for either of the types of users that we might support. So launching an application from our application tile interface is very simple. All the user can do in this UI is launch an application. The system is locked, so it's heavily restricted in the sense that there's very little that an end user can do except run the application that you assign them to. And in terms of desktop integration, it is possible to drop a shortcut onto the user's Windows 10 desktop or start menu. And then for end users who are used to launching their application from that kind of interface, all they have to do is double click and the application launches. From the Apple Mac perspective, it's a similar experience. The difference, of course, here is that I'm running natively the Office 2016 edition of Windows, the Windows version of Office, natively on the Mac. We've got a number of customers, especially in the educational space, who really struggle with the issue of bring your own device and in delivering applications that are often Windows only based to their Apple Mac or Linux or Chromebook users. So it's a very good use case for any educational establishment where that's happening frequently. As I mentioned before, there's very little that the end user can do aside from gain access to their application. We create a workspace-like environment where the administrator decides what applications the end user gets to see. So although this particular user can only run Microsoft Excel 2003 and Notepad, the Droplet image that I'm using here does have the rest of the Office suite available. So if I wanted to make another application available to this end user, all I have to do is update their workspace so they have a shortcut to actually run it. So I use the little plus button here to define a new application such as Microsoft Word 2003, specify the name of the executable I want to run, and then also select an icon that I want them to use for their images. Struggling to find my downloads folder where I have all my pictures and images. Let me get to there. I think I've got some icons in here. Oops. Not to worry about that. I can find my icons. And then I just finished that wizard, and that gives the application available to the end user. All I have to do now is lock the container, and the user gains access to Microsoft Word. That's because I installed the whole Office suite. So if you like, what we've done is separated the installation, the image, from the presentation layer. All I need to do is give users access to different applications through this simple UI. The other big difference about us compared to other solutions is how we actually install applications. So I just want to quickly show you how I actually install a piece of software into the container. When I unlock the container with my admin credentials, that exposes a toolbox of utilities to the administrator from which they can actually install applications. I've taken the liberty of mapping a network drive here to my internal software share, where I've got a number of applications that I commonly install for demos like this. So something small and simple like Notepad++ is a good example because it doesn't take that long to actually run that piece of software and install it. So the big thing to mention here is there's no sequencing, recording, or application packaging process in the world of Droplet. The software is installed natively inside the container, encapsulated, as Barry said, inside our Droplet format. And once the applications have been installed and configured in the appropriate way, that Droplet image can be pushed out to as many endpoints as you need. So one of the issues that a lot of customers express an issue with is trying to get legacy applications to work in other systems where some sort of special skills are required to create a clean machine, capture the state of that machine, install the software, then create a difference. And it can be quite a convoluted process for which many applications find it a foreign process to go through and then will subsequently cause problems in terms of running. So I've installed Notepad++ to this container. All I'm doing here is creating another little shortcut to that, and the install will now load and open the application for the user. So as long as the customer can gain access to the original install media and knows their dependencies such as .NET or Java, it's a very, very simple process to install software into the container and then selectively only publish the applications that end users really need. And with that, I'll stop my demo and I'll let the presentation continue. Thank you for watching. So we're doing the PowerPoint slides? Yep, great. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Michelle. That was great. I wanted to sort of like link that back to what does this actually mean to an end customer? What do we see out in the marketplace? So what's real in terms of Droplet deployments? And one that I wanted to highlight on this particular webinar was Oxford University, because I think it's a very relevant use case. It's a global name, not just a British name. And what they were able to do is use our technology to encapsulate all of their applications, script a deployment method through, they actually used mobile iron, but any of the technologies can be used that would deploy applications. I always like to refer to us as an app to run an app. And therefore, because we are just an XE or an MSI or a DMG, etc., as I explained earlier, we can just use the deployment tools that currently are being used by any enterprise or any IT department to deploy their current applications. And with that, they were able to create a scripted engine that was able to identify different use cases, create gold images of our DCIX or DCIM container, depending on the compatibility of the application needed, and then deploy that out en masse. So this was a 5,000 user use case across the social sciences department of Oxford University. What it meant to them, before they had, I can't recall how many applications they have in total, but there's quite a number of different applications. And for every single application that they deployed out through the faculty, they had to script a whole engine around delivering that. Plus they had then the cost of delivering that across a Citrix farm or a VMware farm. They were able to decommission all of that, do one very simple build of Droplet, script it out, link it back to AD permissions, and then deploy en masse very, very simply. And that gives us our scale. Scale came from, because we're deploying to the end equipment, that's where the power comes in. So we don't have scale issues like most cloud technologies would have once they reach a granular scale. So they've been absolutely delighted with the result from this, and they're able to deliver both modern and legacy applications in one suite of one delivery mechanism across the whole campus. So public sector, massive use case in public sector. We're told by Gartner that there are over 360,000 legacy applications. The challenge that public sector faces is there's a new government, a maximum every 5 years. And so policies and thought processes never quite get transferred from one government to the next. And so they never quite get a project finish, or projects fail. And so they're left in the world of, at the moment, where there is an awful lot of legacy applications out there that are stuck and have security vulnerabilities. We all saw the WannaCry virus that hit the NHS quite hard. In the use case of droplet computing, we can actually utilize our serial or USB interface or COM interface part of the software to enable, let's take the use case as it's a whole piece. They had XP machines, in the case of WannaCry, running what are hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of machinery on the back end. What we're able to do is encapsulate that application, decouple it away from the dependency it has on that underlying operating system, containerize it in the Droplet solution, and then deliver that back on a Windows 10 device and address the security alongside that, making them compliant, protecting them away from the threat of the likes of WannaCry, and then delivering back that solution to them at an exceptional cost when you consider how much it would cost to buy a whole new piece of imaging or equipment, for example, certainly 6 figures, in some cases multiple machines at 7 figures cost. In the enterprise, it's exactly the same. If I cut through a Droplet customer, I would say they're of enterprise size that were born of 2000 or before. By enterprise size, I usually mean 1,000 users plus. So they've had some bespoke application written for them. We see it all the time. It's key and pivotal to their business. And with that particular challenge that they have, it's not easy to retrain their global staff. It's not easy to just upgrade to the latest version. And what do they get as a benefit beyond security? Yes, as I've explained earlier, there's these new world in which we live in of AI and BI to get analytics and use your applications as more of an insight into the business and drive more profitability. But you can do that with their current legacy applications. It's about mining and extracting the data, and that's a better use of their money. And let business as usual, let them continue to work as they do today and are profitable today. Within finance, a common one we see within finance, it generally resolves in either in finance departments or within the finance world itself. It's usually tied to an old version of Excel that's had lots of macros or different pieces written around an old version of Word that is now vulnerable because obviously it's not patched, it's not supported, it's not kept up to date. So a perfect use case for the security aspect of it and allowing them to continue to run would be to containerize it, move it forward into the modern platform, and then you still can carry on with business as usual. And they can choose a flashy Mac if they want, and we would give them the full flavored version of their application that they know and love. It's important to also say we don't change the support model for the application. So it's important that we just allow the DLLs, allow the structure, allow what the application knows and loves to be part of our core competencies inside our container. And therefore, when they go back to the ISV for support, we haven't changed anything or done anything different to what the application knows and loves today. All we've done is lifted, shifted it, and secured it. Education, I'm going to move on from this because I think on the education side of things, it's very much been covered by the Oxford University case study. It is an easy, simple, more cost-effective way to deliver your applications to students that turn up with multiple different devices. And we have a solution to then deliver back a consistent application experience to each of them. Manufacturing is very similar to the NHS one that I highlighted earlier, in that there are lots of machinery that are governed by an application that is running on an archaic version of DOS or an old version of XP, for example, and the manufacturer ships with it all bundled in, and it's not easy just to then go and upgrade it. It won't work. They try and sell you a new piece of machinery. So exactly as I described earlier, containerize it, change that around, and then put that into the Droplet solution to deliver it forward.